Okay. Now, you did mention that it's not just about the figure, but most times what eventually gets to be is not what it seems.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, that calls for monitoring and the implementation issue, which is where the problem
That's right. Yes,
is.
it's a big problem.
How best can, we actually monitor that these monies are properly channeled to where they should be?
I think that is where a lot of work needs to go into. I know that the civil society has been very active. For instance, budget, the NGO that monitors government spending and publish it, introduce some bit of transparency into how that entire process. But the Freedom of Information Bill has also aided this transparency. But again, I don't think it's very easy to get those figures, because I was thinking, has anybody carried out a study of budget fungibility in Nigeria? For instance, in 2017, we had a budget of 8 trillion or 7 trillion naira. How much was actually implemented? We will not get that. So now we have 9.1 trillion naira budget for 2018. At the end of 2018, we will be discussing based on 9 trillion, but we will not know how much of it was implemented. Now, how do we get to know this? I think that is something that institution has to take care of. Right now, I don't think that there is any, the structures that we have in place do not enable us to do that, perform that function.
Whose responsibility is it to really monitor this budget implementation?
We have the Budget Office of the Federation, of course, and then each of the ministries, MDAs, they also have their audit departments that's supposed to monitor all of this. But again, of course, the Accountant General of the Federation, because eventually you talk about appropriation and all of that. So, but whether they do their role, maybe they do, but do we have the data? Because it is what they send out that we will see. So if we don't have the data, there is nothing much we can do.
Okay. Now let's look at the oil price assumption that the National Assembly came up with, 50.5 per barrel from 45. Yes, we have seen oil price at the international market go up by 80%, but how realistic is this assumption, considering that we do not have control of what happens on the international market?
Yeah, but anyway, even when oil was trading below $30 per barrel, some oil pundits were of the opinion that it was a very temporary situation. Okay, there has always been this debate about the prospect of oil future, and then there was a discussion about post-oil economy. I personally don't think that is warranted, given the state of technology in the world, because if you look at the manufacturing technology and even the automobile or the transportation technology, it is still driven by fuel. Okay, the combustion engine hasn't changed. And that's the same thing you see in all the, so it's still a fuel-fired production system all over. So that's the kind of technology that we have. So, and I don't see the renewables, so-called renewables, solar, because the cost of solar is very high. And then when you talk about hydrogen and all of those, so they are still not very close within the horizon. So we will still continue to have an oil-dominated economy going into the future. So oil price will continue to go up. So there is no doubt about it. And then going from what has happened since late last year to now, oil has been above $50. So I expect that we will still see above, if we don't get to 100 by the end of the year. So yes, I think they are right on that.
That's your own prediction. Okay, looking at the fact that this is coming at a time when Nigeria is preparing for an election, are you concerned, about perhaps the distractions that might bring in terms of implementation? Perhaps some people have expressed this concern that this budget, well, they might probably channel it into elections, or even with the oil price at $80 a barrel, all of that might probably go into election year.
Yeah, I usually refrain from discussing, politics because I'm an economist. So when I come on, I try to restrict myself to the technical matters. Well, what normally happens is that prior to every election, foreign investors are always very risk averse, so they tend to steer clear of Nigerian market because of these concerns that you have raised. I think they are genuine concerns. Would the government spend the money they said they're going to spend, or would they rechannel it to other more pressing needs? Well,
we'll just wait and
we'll
see.
Just wait and see.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, when you talked at the beginning, you did mention multi-year budgeting
cycle.
Yeah, how do you think that will work in our Nigerian system?
No, it has worked before. When we had a 5-year development plans. Now, even now, we have the medium-term expenditure framework, maybe 3 years or something, and then they take chunk of that and put it into the budget. Okay, so fine, that works. But why can't we, have that, at a go, and then begin to implement it, gradually, and then monitor it. Let the annual budget discussion be more on what has been achieved and what is yet to be achieved. Given the budgeted amount for a particular project, rather than having all this zero budgeting thing they talk about. So each year we have raw figures, but nobody tells us what was achieved. For instance, in electricity, over the past 16 years, we spent $16 billion, and we are still not anywhere above 4,000 megawatts. Some people think that $1 million should give you 10 megawatts.
Okay, so well, although the Senate has passed the budget, but do you think the president is likely going to assent to this budget?
Well, I don't think he has any incentive not to. The election, I think his performance is actually on the table right now, so he has to be very cautious. So I don't see any incentive, a very strong motivation for him not to accept the budget as provided by the National Assembly right now.
Now, looking at the challenge of recurring delays, and probably if the president decides that, look, this money you have passed is not what I would want to spend, and says, no, I'm not going to sign this budget, and then we have further delay. What are the possible implications? Well,
the possible implication is that we'll stay without a budget by June, because the budget cycle 2017 ends at the end of this month. So if the new budget doesn't come into effect by the beginning of the next cycle, which starts in June, then means that there will not be any appropriation or allocation for any projects or any ministry. So that's going to cause a whole lot of disruption in the system.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Bongo Adi. Well, I've been speaking to Dr. Bongo Adi, a senior lecturer at the Lagos Business School. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. Just stay with us.